IVM.
कृपया ध्यान दीजिए, the language used on the podcast may not be fit for consumption. We warn you, tread carefully. But listen yaar, don't be so conservative. I'm reeling. Cyrus says this is the show Monday morning. Good morning to everybody who's watching live as well as dead. When I say dead, I mean that, in a very flirtatious way. I don't mean to upset anybody because at a time like this, you shouldn't make jokes like that. I retract the statement, my lord. I can't say my lord, by the way. That's cancelled. So I retract the statement anyway. Huge blow to all of us, which is the minimum fare of taxis have gone up from 16 odd to $25, and the midnight fare is 32. $32 if you go 1.5 kilometers by taxi in Mumbai as we speak. The minimum fare for rickshaws has gone up to 27 rupees. I mean, that's only got 3 wheels. And it's almost the same as a 4-wheel taxi. What is this world coming to? I got to tell you some good news here from the locomotive side, and that is Racecourse is opening. The season starts now this week. We're going to have races again. Horses are back. So from what I gather, simple maths tells me it's cheaper to buy a horse than take a taxi. So think about that, folks.
We live in an age of disruption, of immense change in every aspect of work, life, and business. But is the old way of doing things truly dead? And are we ever going to stop saying the new normal? Join me, Varun Dugirala, on Advertising is Dead every Tuesday as I talk to entrepreneurs, leaders, creators, and change makers from across business, media, marketing, and beyond to dig a little deeper into how we got here, what we're doing now, and where we're headed. You can catch all the episodes of Advertising is Dead on the IVM Podcast website, app, or wherever you get your podcast from.
It's called Cyrus Says. I'm joined by the reputed scientist, social scientist Amit Doshi, and his good friend, a man who's kept the same hair and beard for the last 1 year, unlike the Prime Minister's whose hair and beard is growing, which is a sign of prosperity for all of us. Mr. One and Only Silvery Antariksh.
Hey, good morning.
Hi, Silvery.
Hey, morning.
Offline.
Cyrus, I think Rishi just told you to put the mic down, but you put it a little too far down. Put
Okay.
it a little off. There you go. That's better.
All right. That's the most interesting part of this entire podcast, by the way. So let's do more of that throughout. Just keep reminding me to move the mic. People get really excited. Oh, mic time.
Mike.
Offline, Silvery, you mentioned that there's not too much happening, but there are lots of small stories. And this story, again, this is, I don't know what to call it, the elitist attitude issue thing, or whether it's the middle class, India and Mumbai in particular. But I always get upset when petrol goes up and when taxi fares go up, even though I'm not using taxi fares. It's in my DNA. I just react badly. It's like India losing a test. I just react badly. It's an emotional thing. Amit, I don't know where you stand on this, but over the years, I remember since Xavier's days back in the early 90s, what was I? 1990. It was something like, I thought $12 for me to reach home from St. Xavier. So from Metro to Malabar Hill, 12 rupees. Shalini, myself, and Neeraj Koshar would share the fare, $4 each. I never paid, so I always owed them. So $6 each for them. That's just a little twist on the tail.
Yeah, but I remember that too, right? I used to come home from school for like 6 rupees, 7 rupees.
Exactly. I used to
that
come
was the fee.
from like $10, $10-12.
$10. Okay, so you guys do realize that you need 32 in the night. 32 just to go 6-7 buildings away. Literally, if you're feeling lazy.
Terrible.
Which is,
Sorry, the day fare is what, 23,
25.
right?
From 16 to 25, brother. Mathematically, that's what, a 50% jump almost?
Oh, wait, it's not a 16 rupee minimum right now.
That's what it says. Fare per km, 16.93.
For rickshaw. For rickshaw?
For rickshaw, 16. Sorry, you're right. 22, 26 old fare for taxi and 25 now.
Oh.
It tells you how long it's been since I've been
So
in a cab.
rickshaw minimum fare is 25 rupees and taxi minimum fare is 26 rupees.
Something like that, yeah.
That's
Something like
weird. That always used to be a much
rickshaw
bigger
minimum
gap,
fare is 21. Old fare is 14. That's what the older reporter said.
Wow.
It's confusing.
It's great how none of us know the actual rates of rickshaw.
No, so I know the minimum. I know the old minimum
You
fare.
mean none of you travel by rickshaw today?
I don't.
No,
I don't do it.
I do travel by rickshaw every so often. It's $18 is the minimum.
Where do you
fare.
travel
So
by
basically,
rickshaw, man?
When I have to go within Bandra somewhere.
Before
Okay.
COVID.
Before COVID, yeah.
God, can't see you.
Now, since COVID, I don't travel by anywhere. Yeah, but I mean,
I
like,
know.
yeah.
The only safe way with the rickshaw is if you drive the rickshaw yourself and the guy sits behind. God, that's ridiculous. Yeah, let's get this right now, folks. Otherwise, the whole show will go on getting the facts right here. So, minimum fare for Cool Cab is $33, where the old one was $22. For Kali Pili, it is now $25, and the old fare was $16.
It was not
that.
$16.
That's what it says here.
That is wrong.
Well, that's what it says.
I don't have a car. right? And so if I have to come to your house or if I have to go to the, anywhere around this Malabar Hill area, I take a Kali Pili only and go.
Okay, let's go on to our live chat and says, anybody taken a taxi today and yesterday? You can tell us what they paid and what the difference is. And I hope you don't tip the taxi guy because that causes more confusion. But just quickly, so 1.5 is 32 and about 10 kilometers. Guys, 10 kilometers is my office to my little bit beyond my home, which is not much really where I live. That is 10 kilometers. The new cost will be, I've lost it again, 223 rupees. Silvery for 10 km.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
That doesn't sound right. Really?
I'm reading off here. I'm not lying. Oh, that's
no,
I know
you're not lying, but
cab. But I need the cool cab. It's hot.
Even that seems high for a cool cab, right? I'm just thinking,
what will you pay if you go by Uber?
If I come from my house to your office by Uber, it's like 110 bucks, 120 bucks.
120? So this is almost double.
120. Yeah.
And cool cab AC, so double for cool cab. And for our normal cab, 10 is 169. What a figure to go with. 169. You won't be feeling like that at all by the end of this journey. I suppose if your office pays for your conveyance like some people used to in the 90s and 20 years back, I don't know what others is. I mean, 2 kilometers you'll have to walk. It makes no sense to spend 40 bucks for 2 kilometers. No sense.
Yeah, we are being told in the chat that Akriti Arora tells us that Kali Pili is 22 bucks or had 22 bucks previously. And Shruti says that Rick was 18 minimum.
That's exactly right. I know that's the case because I used to, like when I'd go to a doctor or something like that, right? There's a doctor close by. I would take 25 rupees with me in cash to pay him at that point in time. So I knew that number was something like that.
Okay, wait. Akriti to get our own podcast on taxis. I will look this up. Thank you, Akriti, for helping us. I spent the whole morning researching this, and you can see when it comes to numbers what has happened. But I'm not lying. I wish I could show you a screenshot. It's on the Times of India page 3 if anybody wants to go into it. Tariff cards valid from March 1st to May 31st, which means after May 31st, it's not coming down. I'm just telling you.
No, it's not. The prices never come down for this stuff.
But now let's look at it from the devil advocate point of view, which is what about these guys with the burgeoning prices of fuel, although they of course use gas, which may not necessarily have the same jump. How do they, and also the loss of income that they've had for almost 10 months. Maybe this year onwards they've had a little, but up to December of last year, very little.
Oh, no, it's been bad, right? I mean, we have a guy who we use as he'll come for a driver every so often. He has his own cab, right? He has a black and yellow cab. And it's been brutal for them, man. I mean, it's really been really, really hard for them because the volume of travel is decreased by everybody, usually, right? And so if in a day, if he take his taxi out and he get 10 or 15 things to do, I mean, now he was saying 2 or 3 at best. Right. And so he is fortunate enough that he's paid his cab off already. His cab he doesn't have a loan on his cab.
Oh, that's good.
But he was telling me a lot of people who are still paying their cabs off, they're completely screwed.
A few years back, I was thinking of investing in taxis.
It was a good investment a few years back.
Oh, a little bit back. A couple of my friends actually, one friend of mine had owned 3 taxis.
Yeah.
He used to make a little money on it on the side. Of course, he owned a petrol pump as well. So it was easy for him in a sense.
So I've looked into this a little bit. It's a hard to manage business, but it's an excellent return business.
No, you're right. If you get the market, you're doing really well because if you drive for 8-9 hours in the day and you manage to get a lot of customers, you can easily clear about 2-3 grand a day. It's not so bad.
Basically, it's a business that can make you probably something like 70-80% on your investment a year, but it's a very, very hard to manage business.
Yeah, but
very hard to manage.
But Amit, I had a super business plan in place. I was going to take all my old relatives who don't have much to do and put them in a cab. Well, not all together, but in different cabs. And
that solves the primary issue, right? The primary problem is one of employment, right? Because what happens is that trust is not so. Trust is more easily manageable because there are ways to kind of manage it from a software perspective, right? Or from a hardware perspective with the meters. And there are ways to do that. But what happens is that if you're a driver who is driving in the cabs, right? And this is we literally came against this problem when we were looking at doing it. If you are a driver who is doing this, right? You're not going to be a professional taxi driver for less than 20 to 22,000 rupees a month. That was the bare minimum salary you would have to pay for that. Our normal household drivers are around 15,000. This would be at least 50% higher than that. Once you're making 25,000 rupees a month, at that point in time, you're operating in a league where starting to think about paying the installment on a cab is not as intimidating as it is at 15,000 rupees a month, because the installment on a cab is something like 10,000-12,000 rupees a month.
Okay.
So basically drivers will start making their own, they'll start moving into making their own cabs, which is a good thing from a societal perspective. But if you're trying to run it as a business, it's a bad thing.
No, but for struggling comics, it's a good idea, Silvery. I mean, with work, night work.
You think struggling comics can work for 9, 10, 12 hours a day?
Well, they can do that. They can do the stand-up. We can charge a little extra. Hello, Mr. Sharma. Beto. Did you know that 2 men went into a bar in Lucknow? One of them was called Yogi, but not the Prime Minister, Chief Minister. And, from there, you take off. Silvery, what do you think? Look, in the States, for example, or in the West, lots of guys who are struggling in the art world, whether they're actors or stand-up comedians, or artists, or whatever, take a second job to pay bills. And taxi driving, Uber driving, that kind of thing is one of the most popular.
Actually, that's true. I mean, there's no, as long as there's, exactly. There's no, as long as you're fine with driving a rickshaw around, or driving a taxi.
You drive a rickshaw 9 to 5.
Yeah, it's
then you take a break for a little while, and then you go and do your art from say 9 to 2 or whatever.
It's an easy job. All you have to do is drive all day, and then you can work on your material or whatever, and go at night.
You can test your material when you get a decent customer who's chatty. Great. Like I'm a chatty customer in a cab. I love talking with the cabbies. Exactly. So I listen to you. We'll have fun.
And imagine the stories you'll get, man. Imagine the material you'll get from talking to all those people. I'm sure you'll have some great characters who come into the cab very often.
No, I remember I got a lesson from a guy in Calcutta who we were discussing how Rabi Devi had become chief minister conveniently when Lalu Prasad had been put in house arrest or whatever, 5-star jail, whatever it was called. And he said, "Isme kya hai? The Congress to वैसा ही करता है. कितने सालों से." And he was spot on actually, because in his mind he explained nepotism to me, which has got different colors and layers, but it's the same thing end of the day. So yeah, they're philosophers and they're interesting, and they could be comedians as well. One for the cabbies. Yep.
So you were talking about starting your own cab business. A few years back, my dad and uncle were thinking of starting a taxi business in Goa. But it didn't happen because Goa's union, taxi union,
doesn't allow you outside.
Yeah, they don't allow. Yeah, exactly.
You have to be a local.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't allow Uber and Ola.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's why you have to pay 1,500. I've done this. I paid 1,500 rupees for an Innova to go from one hotel to a restaurant, which was 4 kilometers away. 1,500 rupees I paid for an Innova.
Yeah.
My wife would have run.
Huh?
She just would have run. She runs 20 kilometers every second day.
She can run. Most of us could not run. We had we were a group of 12 people. We had to take 3 cars. $4,500 we paid. We paid as much for that Innova as we paid for not our entire night out, but for a good chunk of our night out.
3 trips like that, and you could have bought the Innova. I mean, come on, guys.
It was ludicrous.
But I don't know. Maybe all of us, many of us as we age, live in a world which is gone. So we can't adjust to price rise. Amit, I don't think you're that bad, but I am a little bit like that. I just cringe. I cringe and then I try to deal with it. But with the 100 crossing, and it's a great day for all of us. We've crossed 100 in Bombay today for premium petrol. I saw it in the morning. I felt emotional. We all cried. I hugged the mechanic. I took my mask off. I said, let's kill each other. Let's COVID together. But what's the point? We're going to die of inflation anyway. And while that's happening on one side, and this is happening, you can justify this saying that, inflation from fuel hike, just as you said earlier in the last program, affects everybody. And everything is like a domino effect, a circular effect. So maybe that's it. But thinking of being a college kid again thinking from our world, as usual, I don't even think about farmers or about dance bar girls or about accountants, all the other interesting people of India. But as us, when we were young in college or whatever, and trying to put little money together to go by cab here and there, this is frightful now. I mean, you've got a girlfriend who lives 20 kilometers away, you're screwed. Or rather, you're not screwed. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but you are.
It's going to factor in when you're as cheap as I am. You're going to factor in everything. Am I going out? Am I not going out?
You need to train. If you have a girlfriend 20 kilometers away, you go by train.
And of course, when you're a kid, pocket money, a lot of your pocket money is based on travel, because you will have to get from place A to place B, and then from there, after reaching that place, you'll have to spend a little bit more money. So you always factor in travel. At least I used to. So
we used to travel by cab in the early days when nobody had a car, and we just started eating and drinking in college, early junior college. And I'm thinking there'll be fights over the payment here. Yeah. Because everywhere you go, Rajiv will say, I don't have enough money, or I don't have this, or this is too much. And I can imagine all the bickering that'll happen. In any case, you're bound to save.
Did you guys ever have the issue around this, right? I remember me and my friends, when we were dividing cab bills, who got picked up first? You should pay a little bit more than the person who got picked up second.
Correct.
That's a gift from my generation.
It's like a food thing. It's like,
but then the person who gets picked up first, right? The person who's taking the cab initially, which is typically me, my argument would be like, but then I should go straight to the place. Now, why am I coming to pick you up in the way? Exactly. If I'm coming to pick you up, but then they're like, no, but if you went straight to the place, then you'd have to pay the entire thing. It turned into an amazing argument.
The logic is warranted on both parties and both sides, but the only point is in the end, we'll end up splitting it by 4. You just can't do it any other way. How do you, I mean, what? Does he minus that first tariff? Oh, by the way, we never tip the cab. Until I went to England, I had no idea you tip the cabbie. But in India, there's no tipping of cabbie unless you won't take the change back because it's a headache. You literally tip him because you're irritated that you don't want the 2 rupees 75 paisa in change.
I don't want the coins.
Do you want
honestly, I tip the. I don't want the coins. That's
humanitarianism in India comes from majburi. It's always that. It's a beautiful link, man. Yeah, but for me, it was the taxi culture growing up from our world again of middle class males. Let's say it played a huge role and still does till Silvery's generation. Till he got his first car, or somebody in the group got a car. I'm sure, and you still. I mean, you don't have cars all the time when you're in your late teens and early 20s. So the rickshaws and taxis are so important. So I feel your pain, Silvery. I can see what you're going through. Social life will come to maybe 30% down minimum.
No, definitely. Already COVID has made such a difference.
Oh, the girl will know you love her. Silvery, girl will know you love her. He came 20 kilometers twice this week. Just to
you came to pick me up. Oh God, that's so sweet.
and then on the after dinner, I have to drop you also. Oh shit. Women's Day coming up, guys. Women's Day coming up. Be careful.
Mahindra in the chat has a very interesting message. He says, won't the collective number of rides go down for rickshaws and taxis? That means lesser people will take you to remote places because they won't get bhada back. So they're a lot more like nahi jaane ka hai. That might happen, right?
They've been doing that from my early days in the 80s or 90s, whenever the hell it was. Where they would, the preferred generation. I mean, I've done this in my stand-up all the time, but I hated it. Firstly, the answer would always be without a word. It would be in sounds, which I felt was the most disrespect you could ever get. I'd be like, especially nobody in South Bombay wants to go to another place in South Bombay. It was just not worth their while. So you say Malabar Hill from Cuff Parade, and he'll go like, and I'd be like, but do I get the respect of no, nahi, noko? Nothing. It's just like, or just look away, don't make eye contact, and just like, you're really ugly, I don't want you in my cab. I had to go through all that shit, growing up. It was just ridiculous because they just wanted the 250 rupee big one for the day and no small fares up and down. When you talk to them, they explain everything.
No, but so, I mean, like, it's one of those things which I don't understand the logic, or I don't understand how that logic stands up, right? If you take that 250 rupee fare, then the amount that you're being paid per hour is significantly less than if you were to take 4 of these 25 rupee fares.
Yes, but when laziness meets enterprise, you get results like this. Because enterprise tells him, I'll wait for the big fare. Laziness tells him, that's a great idea. And it comes together. That's what happens. I agree with you because the hardworking guy, when you talk, they're different cabbies, just like they're different cops, they're different us. And they would tell you, look, they look down on those guys. They're terrible. They're spoiling our name because the other guy will do the 7 rupee fare, the 10 rupee fare, and he will, ginke, he would have a really good day on, say, Friday and make like a $2,000. But that guy went ahead. And the joker was waiting at the airport for that one ride. That's his thing.
Yeah. That always struck me as kind of weird, right? Why would you care so much? You should want a bunch of small rides. You get a new ride, you get flair. Also, I mean, like when I'm paying you per kilometer, right? If I'm coming to your house is 2 kilometers away from my house, right? I'm still paying $25, right?
It's a killing. It's a killing. He's used very marginal amount of fuel or whatever gas, and he's reached, as you said, just 2 kilometers, and he made a full profit, probably 80% profit on that. If he does the maths at the end of the day, you're right. 10 of those fares, if he got in the day, would make him go through the roof as against long distance where he would consume some.
Well, you're consuming a lot of fuel. It's painful. It's a lot of work. It's a lot more work. I've always had the other thing that I've never really understood. Right, this is more of an Uber thing than a cab thing, and I've never understood why. And so now apparently FASTag is compulsory, though I don't think it still is.
I just came back from Alibag.
I don't think it still is compulsory.
No, they have one cash lane, but the lane was longer, and also they start irritating you. Then they'll charge more for the cash vis-a-vis what the discount you're getting on this. So in a way, it's forced on you. Yeah.
But we have the C-Link, right? And I've never understood why Uber drivers would not want to use the FASTag on the C-Link, right? Because again, it's just plain simple math. If every time you stop at the toll, you have to spend 5 minutes or 7 minutes at that toll, which is what you spend every time you stop at the toll, right? If you're stopping at that toll 20 times a month to 30 times a month, you're wasting 2.5 to 3 hours of your time and that toll.
Here's the rub. I think when you do the FASTag, you're getting a little discount on it also.
You get a discount
so
also.
It makes sense to take the FASTag because he's making money because he's charging you the 75 rate. He's not charging the FASTAG rate. Whatever the damn rate is for the cash. Yeah. That's what's going into your bill. So it makes no sense. And it also makes sense to him because he is going to use the damn thing 10 times. Yeah. You might as well fill it up. That's his I mean, that's his career. Just like you chose Comedy Silver, he chose to drive the cab. So I mean, that's there in his future.
Yeah.
He'll go up and down the ceiling.
It's always been something that surprised me, right? That I mean, like if you're a professional driver, aren't you trying to maximize your income? You maximize your income by maximizing your time on road.
You're putting business sense into everyone, and unfortunately, this business sense, or fortunately, escapes a lot of people.
But Cyrus, the problem is that the way that my thinking generally works, right? It's that people will do things which are geared towards their incentives. If people don't understand their incentives or don't understand what is the right thing, and then you become paternalistic. No, you should do this because this is better for you, right?
Also, the fear of spending more money initially in India is another DNA issue. The moment you say spend more first, the idea that it will generate more for you later doesn't really add properly in our heads.
No, also, in the ceiling particularly, to be honest, there was also an initial problem, right? The way that they set up the ceiling toll FASTag initially was you had to pay 3,000 rupees for a monthly tag and go up and down as many times as you want to, right? And that doesn't make sense from a financial perspective for these drivers. Right, and that's the impression all of them have as how
Amit, as an upstanding Mumbaiker and a citizen who believes in following the law and doing everything on principle, I ask you: is there any way we can duplicate the FASTag at home? Because at the end of the day, it's like it's a gun-like thing which hits into it's a laser. I mean,
it is.
Surely we can. There must be a way. Put it out there, please. If anyone can duplicate it and tell us how.
For what you want for opening your door?
No, I just want to keep fake ones ready all the time. I hate the idea of spending money.
Ah, that way. Okay.
Yeah, for what taxes I pay. I'm not getting anything. They shut the Oval for 15 days for no reason. They let the other grounds flourish. Everybody's playing in Parsi Gymkhana. What's the point of that? So I'm feeling victimized. So I want to fight back. And I'll fight back with laser tag of my own. Imagine. And I'll give it to my friends as well if we can duplicate it, guys. This is my NGO effort for all struggling people who live off their parents like myself. This is something we can do together. So out there in the chat, if anyone can duplicate the laser, I'm sure we can. We are the Jugaad country of the world. We've given them all these credit card fraud and all came from us. So any machine, Indians can do something in the machine that works for us. That's the whole idea. I see you're perplexed. You're not happy, Amit.
No, it's just,
you're a man of integrity. Wrong show, Amit Doshi.
Okay, I was just, so here's the thing, right? If I was thinking of, should I answer this or should I just let it sit as a joke? I'm like, let it just sit as a joke. Now I unnecessarily give an actual answer to this.
So what you're saying is that you rotate. Sometimes you treat me as a kid and an infant and just let it go. Well done, beta. I'll go get an ice cream. And sometimes you want to fight. Okay, before we go into break, are we going to get into the Mohammed bin Salman story now or after?
We should. Let's take a break and let's come back with the MBS.
Okay, coming soon, Joe Biden and the MBS controversy.
If you love cricket, listen up. The Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast is here for you. Hosted by DJ, Varun, and me, Ashwin, we bring a fun, fresh fan's point of view to talking all things cricket. Sometimes it's just the three of us, sometimes we have guests, including current and former international cricketers. For new episodes every week, check out the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast on the IVM app, website, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Back here on our live chat and lots of stories. I wanted to talk about flashing. Flashing, by the way, gets you 1 year in jail. Quick story before we go into Mohammed bin Salman and all that. There was a gentleman in 2015 who flashed a young 17-year-old college girl, as in he took off his pant and showed his junior member to the lady in question. And then, of course, he was caught and beaten up and all that. And the case took 4 or 5 years. And now the judge in Mumbai has said you get 1 year jail for that because even if no harm is done, there's no question of molesting. It is still a crime for flashing and outraging the modesty of the young girl. Comments, guys? Because I have flashed.
I mean, but it's definitely an offense. Nobody should have to look at your genitals out in public. So it makes sense.
But I haven't flashed women in public, but I have flashed in the dressing room. You just drop everything just to irritate the new guy. We used to do it all the time. Because new guys are always shy in a dressing room and they don't want to make eye contact. Yeah. So other men just walk around with their, what you may call it, hanging. We do it all the time. That's also flashing.
Amongst men, it's fine. Yeah.
What? That's
in boarding school. Like,
boarding school ka batao. You've been harrowed in Panchgani. I want to hear
in boarding school, exactly. In boarding school, we used to hit each other on the bums with wet towels, naked bottoms and all that shit. That was pretty normal. that was quite normal actually.
Amit, he was molested, this kid. They used to whack his ass for no reason with wet towels.
All these repressed memories.
My God.
Yeah.
Oof, ouch.
But,
which boarding school, Panchkani?
This joke is fine.
This is the one opposite Freddie Mercury's.
Yeah, this is the one opposite Freddie Mercury. It's the Sanjeevan Vidyalaya, yes.
Right. Not to say that there's a connection between Freddie Mercury's habits and Tawalkar. Imagine back after We Are the Champions backstage, he takes out Roger Taylor and Brian May. Take your pants off, boys. Boom. All right. Okay. Shall we go into Mohammed bin Salman?
Yes.
The controversy, of course, just quickly, the setup is very simple. Well, the point is not so much about MBS and whether obviously it was a horrible thing to do, the Khashoggi killing. But the point was that when Donald Trump kept sort of mum or allowed it to pass, or because of the connection and the go between Saudi Arabia and US relations, etc., everybody criticized him, starting with the entire Democratic lineup and starting with the alpha at the top, Joe Biden. Now, apparently, he's looking the other way as well. They've had a report, an internal report has come out saying 150,000% he's involved and allowed, at the very least, has allowed the killing to go place, whatever that means. Amit.
He was aware. That's I think what the report said, that he was aware. That
so let's give him that. Let's give him the lowest position, that he was just aware. Now you take it from there.
I don't think that is what happened, right? This was pushed by. This was probably. I think the best is there's a Beckett-like situation. Will no one rid me of this troublesome priest?
Yeah, well,
at best is that.
You're being really nice. Okay, but
that's the best scenario. But again, he knows what he's doing when he says that, right? So I mean, that's.
I'm talking about the double speak which happens, and I hope it doesn't cost you a visa, Silvery, in future. Which is when Donald Trump was on the platform, and I'm not taking a side here. I'm just saying, you talk about human rights issues in India, in Pakistan, in Myanmar, all over the world, in Eastern Europe, in South Africa, in African countries, and South American. You're doing all that on one side, but here's a human rights violation. You're looking the other way, which is even worse than.
No, it is. I'm very disappointed that Biden didn't put some sort of sanctions on here, right? I think that he should have done something. The only kind of, there is a fig leaf for him, right? In that it did not occur on US soil. It did not occur to a US citizen. This is the only fig leaf that he has, right? But having said that, we know what happened here, right?
Let me explain the metaphor to the young man. Siri, you understood what a fig leaf is?
No, I don't want a fig leaf.
Okay, let me explain. A fig leaf covers just the barest minimum in ancient Rome. They would wear just.
I know what you're talking about.
Cover it. So the metaphor used by Amit Doshi is beautiful. I mean, let's do the maths. Excellent. Yeah. So it's a fig leaf. Go on.
No, but that's what it is, right? I mean, that seems to be the only kind of thing that you can look at over here. Because otherwise, of course, there should be some sanctions on the Saudi Arabian government, right? They're sanctioning journalists' assassinations.
Absolutely. But at the same time, we talk about him being a breath of fresh air, that Trump will go, Biden will come, and we all discuss will the world change? Nada. Certain policies are just bigger than individuals. It's just not going to happen. And that's the truth of politics. So let's face it. So stop thinking that there's a champion, Richard the Lionheart, who's coming and starting the Crusades, or, Chandragupta Maurya the First has united the entire world as we see it. All this is not going to happen. Leaders are the same.
So, there's an old saying in American politics, which I think applies to most other countries' politics, right? And that is basically politics ends at the border. When it comes to foreign policy, all countries need to show a united front. And what that means is that foreign policy is not going to deviate dramatically from one president to the other. Everything that Biden has done, even things which affect other countries, right, are things which are more from a U.S. domestic policy lens. For example, rejoining the Paris Climate Accords, right? It is something that he's doing, which is it's something that's an international thing, but it's more about how the US government is going to deal with climate change within the country, right? If you look at the immigration bans that he's overturned, again, it is more about immigration, right? It's not about what the relationship with the individual country is. But if you then again, like you were talking about, I think this was before we started, you were mentioning the drone attacks in Syria and stuff like that, right? That's going to continue because that's US foreign policy. So I mean, the way you interact with foreign countries is always going to be the same.
And it's not that easy for the new president to come and change and chop, as people think. There are two houses he's got to get through. There's a lot of red tape he has to get through. And what does he really want to do? What are the fights that he wants to fight?
And you don't want to do it also, right? Because Donald Trump's an outlier, right? I mean, and that is something that we all understand is somewhat different. But even in the case of you don't want Indian foreign policy or American foreign policy or any country's foreign policy to change dramatically based on elections, because now what that does is all of a sudden foreign actors have incentive to fuck around with your elections, which happens. I'm not saying it Doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But now you're giving them much more incentive to do it, no?
But here's the bottom line, Amit, just to segue a little bit back to the philosophy, which is simple, that all politics has its price. Okay, just like the taxi tariff card, it's the same thing. So you got to look at the price, the cost to your company and cost to your nation, and then you decide. So morality and ethics are just words. When we have to understand that. I think once you understand and digest that, we'll be happier people. There will be some massacres that will be overlooked. This guy was chopped into pieces, physically beaten to death, put inside a bag or box or sacks and taken out in body parts. I mean, hello, you can't get more horrifying than that. And Turkey was left with egg on their face, thinking what the hell happened, and nearly caused diplomatic relations to be severe there between Turkey and Saudi Arabia, because you can't enter the embassy and just do that and exit just because it's your part of the world in another country.
You can. You
crazy, can right? Technically, but you can't.
It's one thing that does kind of lead to some rethinking is necessary. I think around embassy protections and stuff too, right? I mean, this idea of blanket diplomatic community wherever you go.
Yeah.
This idea that this is our soil, not yours. This is this is a thorny thing.
Although my Polish friend Fedor, when I was in college, because he had this yellow license plate, we used to drink and show the cops the beer and all that. He said, come on, let's show the police. And so we drink and this is silly things we did. Oh, the 90s, India was free, beer was cheap, taxis. And if you're with the Polish ambassador's son, you do what the hell you want, man. Yeah. When in Poland, do what the Polish do, which is what we did in Haji Ali, basically.
Yeah. Hey, how much did petrol cost when you guys were growing up?
So I paid $6 for the first in 1990 for my first filling. Because I felt really good. I took the dad said bring the bill home, put it in our tax returns and all that. Parsis, you don't understand. We file all that back in the 90s before digital. We filed. I could show you a stack. I don't know how Amit did it. A stack of petrol bills, and it was for just 10 liters. We wouldn't buy more at a time because that was $60 you spent on petrol.
6 rupees a liter. Yeah, I remember my first tank full, if I'm not mistaken, was less than $100. 72 rupees or something like that. My first tank.
A full tank.
Yeah, 12-15 liters. Also, Marutis, the smaller cars, they had only 30-35 liter tanks.
I had a Fiat.
Tank. Fiat had a maybe 35 liter tank, if I remember correctly.
Was it? I don't remember. I remember paying 70-80 rupees at the petrol pump near Talk of the Town.
You're $70 from there. It doesn't get you a liter. You have to beg him to put something in a thumb, the cork of a bottle, and then you pour it and you hope to God it starts and reaches home.
But do you guys...
Which is again why maybe we should let MBS do whatever the hell he wants now, so then petrol prices don't go up.
Do you guys ever have a problem when they don't...
Silver, you didn't hear that. You didn't hear that.
No, I didn't hear that.
He said let MBS do what he does so that whatever he wants so that the petrol prices don't go up because they control it. That's the one thing they control. Absolutely. Although, again, I'm telling you, their cost to company for us is some 30 odd, and all put together some 40 odd. And then you reach 100. How? We've got to examine that 44 to 100 steps.
It's taxes. It's government, it's local taxes, it's central taxes, it's petrol taxes, it's all taxes.
It's double taxes also now, but Maharashtra tax and a central tax as well because they have to pay an extra.
And it's tax on tax now.
Tax on tax.
So you have a surcharge and then tax is paid on charge of the surcharge. It's just...
I can't believe we tried every topic. We came back to petrol, taxis, and the screw up of our lives.
I have one more question about this, about the petrol thing.
Yeah.
Do you guys have a problem when they don't show you the zero of the meter at the petrol pump? Or is that just like a myth?
But they do. I can't remember when they don't.
Very often not anymore, but sometimes they don't. And when they don't or they forget to do that, it feels like they are scamming you. But I'm sure they're not.
When you raise in a Parsi household, you will get out of the car. You will not sit in the car.
Oh,
okay. You will shut everything when you fill the diesel or petrol. You will be standing next to him. You'll be literally holding his hand. You'll be watching the meter. You'll be watching the spill. You'll be watching that no petrol oil spill happens on where you are. You'll shut the thing properly yourself. And then you'll take a receipt.
That's too much.
Say bye-bye. Yeah. So in the way we are brought up, and I can't change that. These are all classically conditioned things which just happen. So everybody else I've seen, they just sit in the car with the AC on and give a card from 2 inches to the guy. They don't even look at anything and it fills up a little bit and they sign and go. But unfortunately, this is the way we are. Really, my life. What a life.
No. This is okay. I expect. So I haven't had a car in 5-6 years. So I expected my fuel, my tank filling to cost me about $2,500. But as long as he came back to me a bill with like $2,500 ish, it was $100 up or down. I'm fine. Okay, that's what it was. I just never thought about it.
You never got out of the car to double check and sort of not like you're being suspicious. It's just a thing you do. You stand there.
I fill at the Nepean Road petrol pump, right? The one right across from Priyadarshini Park.
Yeah.
They're very kind of conscientious about like knocking on your window, pointing at the thing, see the 0 meter, and then they fill the car. So I've never bothered too much after that.
Yeah. Okay. Silvery, what were you saying?
I was saying that I literally just sit in my car and tell him, just make a ishara like 1 is 1,000, 2 is 2,000. And he fills it. I literally never get out of the car.
What if you use the wrong finger for 1, like this? Then what would you do?
It's possible. Yeah, it's very, very possible.
All right. Shall we go to the AMAs? Let's do them.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. If you aren't following us on social media, please do. IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. We'd like to thank the sponsors on our network this week, Seat Tires. So we had a fantastic week. Tune into This Round is on Me, where Gauri Devidayal has a chat with Divya Ravichandran on the issues of waste management in India and how recycling, composting, and using eco-friendly alternatives can help. On Filter Coffee Podcast, Karthik speaks with Lux Narayan about his book Name, Place, Animal, Thing, an inspiring non-fiction fable about hope, positivity, and living your best life. On All Things Policy, Anirudh Kaniseti, he talks to Pratik Wakre and Rohan Sheth about Australia's conflict with Facebook and Google and what this means for big tech companies and the news ecosystem. On the Simplified Podcast, Naren and Tony talk about greenwashing, which is businesses unfairly marketing themselves as eco-friendly just to ride the sustainability wave. You should also check out the Cyrus Says episode with Varun Deshpande of the Good Food Institute, where they talk about plant-based alternatives. Varun does a great show with us called Feeding 10 Billion. Do check out this episode of Cyrus Says. They have a really interesting conversation. On the Millennial Athlete, Tanvi and Shlok speak to the badminton doubles player Satvik Sairaj about his successful stints at some of the recently concluded games. And with that, let's get you back to your show.
Follow me at Instagram and Twitter on Bored Brocha. I'm so bored, I need your help. I need your love. I need your touch. Okay, just follow me. We basically did 2 topics. One was all tariffs and taxis, and little bit of fuel, which is the same family, and then a little bit of Mohammed bin Salman, who you tied back to fuel because of their control monopoly over the whole business. So wow, in a way, we're like poets. We really are. We were able to spin a whole story.
Yeah. Maybe we should talk a little bit about the virus stuff, the vaccine stuff.
Yeah, I'll tell you the problem. The confusion is, where do you go? Because I have elderly parents, and the building chat, I was just listening and looking at it, in fact, right here. Everybody is not clear, words like this are not clear. And I don't want to attack the government, because I'm sure they're trying to do what they're trying to do. But where do you go? How do you sign up? What is the process? And how long will it take? These kind of questions, I think everybody's asking.
So we'll find out, I think, as we go a little bit, right? But I think they've put out some lists, haven't they? There's a list of hospitals, private and public. The private hospitals are going to charge you $250.
Modi ji took a vaccine today. Took the vaccine today. Okay. PM Modi took the vaccine.
Like, was he in line? Was he in line or out of line?
No, I'm sure he didn't want to get in line. There was just a photo of him sitting and the doctor putting the injection.
Did he get that e-certificate or whatever that he's taken it and all? So that
I actually don't know. I just saw this one image and they were announcing that PM Modi takes the vaccine.
Wow. Okay. Excellent. So that means then we should take it. Once our politicians take it, we know it's working, because they wouldn't be taking it otherwise. For me, that's good enough. Yeah. It's what we call the sabut of the whole thing. Yeah. But I think in the next couple of days, if we can, or on Thursday when we return, hopefully we'll be able to give a modus operandi which is a little better. Because looking at urban India and urban Mumbai at the moment, lots of people are confused and not clear. Dr. Amit Doshi will get back to us with a much better sort of procedure, which I think will allow more confidence in the society. At the moment, people are a little worried.
I have a list of all of the private hospitals that are there. Somebody sent that to me yesterday.
Okay, when the show's over, you read it out, because otherwise half an hour will go.
No, I'm not going to bother reading it out. But I mean, I'm saying that the information's out there. Right now, what are the private hospitals?
Let me go to the building chat while you guys set up for the AMAs, because I'll tell you the problem with the building chat is all these guys, and they're all old people in my building. None of them use the stairs. That's how you know that they're all old people in a building. It's in Bandra Kurla complex. Tomorrow I check and inform about it. But Ward D has to go to certain hospitals, right? They can't go there. Maybe, but I have told BKC has excellent 7-star government faculty. I mean, he meant facility, but you have to understand the age. I mean BKC. So this is the whole thing. Let's understand the real problem. Which is the best bang for the buck is the question, although the buck is supposed to be the same. And that's what they're asking.
No, there is a difference, right? You can go to a BMC hospital for free.
Yeah.
And you can go to a private hospital for $250.
So what does he mean by 7-star government faculty?
He's going to a BMC hospital. Now you're going to a public hospital, you're going for free. If you go to a private hospital, then there's a charge to it. And I'm sure within a week we'll start seeing.
So one second, the charge in the private hospital is more than the 250 rupees?
From what I understood, BMC is free.
It's not free, bro. I think it's $250.
No.
No, $250 is for the private hospitals.
Government hospitals. If I go to the government hospital, I don't pay the $250.
You don't pay anything.
So then I can afford the taxi. 169 will take me to the hospital.
Yeah.
Then I have this much left because they don't charge me. But if they charge me, I can't take the vaccine. I can only tip the cabbie.
I'm going to read out this message because now we'll do public service a little bit, right?
Yeah.
This came from somebody who knows. As of now, the defense hospitals are not vaccination centers. Efforts are on to include them. So you have two options. Wait for some time to register on CoWIN app once activated by 1st March, or walk-in registration at the nearest vaccination centers. Private hospitals, including empaneled hospitals, will charge $250 per dose. Government hospitals will be free.
But how do you know about long lines and all that? Because they're all senior people.
The lines will be there. Lines will be there for sure.
No, but they'll be waiting for 3 hours.
No, so you get that CoWIN app now, the CoWIN 2.0 app. You register over there. They'll give you an appointment.
Yeah, but why can't they get really fast guys to go, left, right, and center like?
It's not that simple a vaccination, I think.
What do they have to do? It's just a thing into the shoulder, right?
Is it? Don't they have to find a vein?
No, I don't think so. In fact, it's intramuscular. It should be going to the muscle.
If it's going to muscle, then they should be able to do it really fast.
Because Kunal, they couldn't find any muscle, vein, or artery. They couldn't find fat, and then they said they gave up. COVID left. COVID was like, I can't deal with this guy.
Did he get it done already?
He's got it done. No? Dr. Kunal Vijayakar got it done. So if you're from a doctor family and all that, it allows you to find your way in.
If you're medical, you can do it.
Yeah. So anyway, AMAs.
AMAs.
Let's get to the AMAs. First one comes in from Shruti S. She says, AMA for Cyrus. Aisha revealed that you sleep with your head near Aisha's feet. What other superstitions do you believe in?
Yeah, I got crapped. I'm a bit of a jerk when it comes to that. I always take the towel on my back 3 times. I can't explain some of these things is OCD or whatever, but I have all kinds of little things that I do. Before I start working out, I always touch my fingers on the bar in an almost sexual way, this way and that way, clockwise and counterclockwise. I do lots of little things. I can't explain, but the one about sleeping is because our luck just got better after 1 year of a sabbatical from any sort of money. And everything seemed to. So now I'm just trapped in this trap. What do you do? Look at cricketers. Look at sportsmen. I know so many cricketers who they use the same abdi guard, the same gloves. I mean, the guy is the richest guy, Virat Kohli, but he won't change the abdi guard because that first double century came from there. So I mean, we're prisoners. We're prisoners to luck. It's the same thing as going to the mandir or worshipping or anything else. A lot of it is to do with the fact that you don't want to lose where you are, and so then you're just stuck. I'm one of those. I mean, it makes no sense. No point arguing. I agree. It's just stupid. Sylvie, what about you? Do you have anything you do?
I don't think, not superstitious per se. But the only time I get a little superstitious is at night when I come back home, sometimes a little late, right? So we have a mandir at home, like a space for a mandir at home. And the last person who enters home has to switch off the light of the mandir. So if you come home at like 1 o'clock at night, you have to switch off the mandir light.
But that before
is switching off the mandir light, correct? No, that's fine. But before switching off the mandir light, I feel like, my hands should be extra clean. Like if I've touched anything before touching the mandir, then I would be like extra clean.
But otherwise, you're not God-fearing. Otherwise,
not really into only this one instant. I don't even know why. I don't even I believe myself to be like agnostic, but just because of these guys, they're like. Our mandir, there are like 50
agnostic is fine. This is called the just in case option. The just in case option.
Exactly. It's not atheism.
You can't land up between heaven and hell and say, boss, मैं सोच रहा आप लोग नहीं था, मेरी गलती नहीं है. I really didn't know.
Exactly. So that's the only thing I think I can think of that I'm a little superstitious about, but otherwise for the most part.
No. It just spirals from there. Amit, are you superstitious?
I can't think of anything really. I mean, I've been trying to think since it came up, and I can't think of anything. I'm very anti-superstition.
I'm also anti. I'm just a prisoner to it.
I know.
It's like I don't want to kill animals, but I'm eating non-veg. It's a dichotomy which is very clear what is right and wrong.
No, I'm trying to think of like, is there a thing which I do which is like, and I'm like, if I ever caught myself doing something like that, I'd make myself stop doing it.
Yeah, so I don't think you don't have that OCD quality. I don't see you doing anything. I can't remember any mannerism which correlates to a certain pattern.
Yeah.
So you
I can't either. I mean, like I haven't done.
Yeah.
It's
good. You're not a prisoner.
I have a friend.
But for us, the OCD guys, sorry, Sylvie, when we're alone, we have all this to do. You see, so our time is always occupied. We don't have to have great things to do. We'll just take 5 times to open the handle of the door, all that crap. So we're good. We're on our own. Yeah, you were saying, sorry.
So I'm saying a friend of mine won't even cut her cat's nails after dark because he's like, shouldn't cut nails after the sun has gone down. So, cat's nails are like this.
Yeah, bro. I tell you, it's all intelligent people, so-called intelligent people doing it, because you can't take a chance once it's all to do with some experience. When that experience happens, you just can't take a chance. It's weak, it's stupid, it's infantile, but then how to break it? Breaking it is very hard. You need real willpower, and I don't do narcotics. Anyway, next one.
All right, next one. Harvesh Kasad asks.
Hi, he's a regular.
Hi again. He's a regular. Hi, Harvesh. Hi again. Question for Amit and Cyrus. Number one, NBA. Amit, what is your take on Dame Lillard getting the All-Star starting lineup snub for Western Conference? Do you think fan vote should be allowed in this?
Yeah, fan vote should be allowed. And here's the question, right? Who do you... he's asking, should Dame have been an All-Star starter? Maybe he should have, but I mean, like, who do you take out from the team, right? I mean, like, one of the other starters is Steph Curry, and who is the other guard starter? Is Luka guard? I think Luka is the guard. So who do you take out? You take out, I mean, like, the difference between them is also minor. Right, all three of them are like amongst the best players ever, and that's always going to be there. If Dame to get an All-Star spot at all, I'd say that's a snub, right? But that's not what happened.
Amit, quickly on a related note, I was reading this thing about Zlatan Ibrahimovic, who is the famous footballer in Sweden. So he called out LeBron James in a tweet and said that you should just shut up and dribble and stop making all these political comments and commentary like you're healing the world every day.
He used the word "shut up and dribble."
Yeah, the actual line is just shut up and dribble.
Interesting. That's the name of a documentary that LeBron came out with last year.
There you go.
About politics and how athletes are supposed to be interacting in politics.
Yeah.
So it's really an interesting, because he got told that by
Zlatan, who called out racism. He's of North African mix, whatever stock Islamic background. He spoke about racism in Sweden, growing up in Sweden, etc., himself. Right. And then he goes off with LeBron, who's like his first cousin, saying the same thing in America. This is still funny.
It's interesting, right? So LeBron's actually been taking some shit over the last couple of days, because you remember Jeremy Lin, the Chinese player who got really popular for a while?
Yeah.
So Jeremy Lin's been dealing with some serious racism stuff that's been happening with him, right? And a lot of people are like, LeBron only cares about racism when it happens to black people. So that's been kind of that's been floating around
the ugly head of selective racism. I've never spoken about it, but my question to you is, can it be too much? Can you reach a point when your political activism becomes like a lampoon and everybody's like, oh shit, not again, save this, save that, save yourself?
It happens all the time. It happened to that. Who was the guy who was kneeling during the national anthems in the NFL?
Yeah,
Colin Kaepernick.
Kaepernick, yeah, that's Kaepernick. Right.
It happened to him also. No, I mean, that's exactly what happened to him. Everybody started losing patience with him. Even people on his side started losing patience with him, because it became more about drama than it became about this, right? Like one of the most famous black guys in sports journalism is this guy named Stephen A. Smith, and he just went off on Colin Kaepernick one day. He's like, dude, you don't want to play in the NFL. You want to be an activist. So then be an activist. If you want to be a football player, then be a football player. You can't be both.
There's a line where your first core competence thing gets blown out of the window and this other thing takes over, and then you've actually crossed like he has. Literally, so is LeBron doing that, or is he still basketball?
No, LeBron's still, dude, he's the best basketball player. He's having a season right now which is second only to Joel Embiid.
So you're in a forgiving mood tonight, is what you're saying?
No, I'm not in a forgiving mood, but I mean, like, he's still a basketball player first, right? I mean, like, he speaks about this stuff, and it's good that he should speak about this stuff.
Again, no one is saying that it's wrong that he's speaking. It's a question of how much. It's a quantity issue, not the quality.
But I mean, like, does it really feel like he's speaking so much that
if I went to every forum, if I was really famous and just only spoke about welfare of stray dogs and saving animals, after about 15 minutes, people will be like, I don't want this guy here anymore.
Yeah,
the equity of the product goes out of the window, the marginal utility of the product goes out of the window, and just comes down. That's all we're saying. So maybe Zlatan has something. Zlatan is quite an intelligent and naughty guy. He's quite the.
But I wonder if he used the exact word "shut up and dribble." I wonder if he's not saying it somewhat tongue in cheek.
It is tongue in cheek.
But using the word "shut up and dribble," right? It makes me feel that he is being a little sarcastic. That maybe LeBron shouldn't do that, because that term was a massively controversial term, which is why they based the documentary based on that, right? There was a right-wing commentator who, when
black sportsmen should just shut up and dribble.
What was it? I think this was when the Trayvon Martin murder happened. You know, that George Zimmerman, Trayvon Martin murder.
Silvery, act like you know what he's talking about. See, I perfected it. Yes, Amit. Yes, of course. Teach me, master. Teach me kung fu.
No, you must remember. I'm sure you remember. This was the guy with the hoodie who got shot by that Miami guy and his own neighbor.
And the guy was showing off afterwards.
Exactly. He just sold his gun on eBay. That
What?
the guy
Wow.
I just saw something.
He was murderer of the year.
Yeah. No, dude, I just
Yeah.
saw something on one of those late night shows. He sold the gun he killed Trayvon Martin with on eBay. I'm like, what the fuck? How does that happen,
But
right?
somebody bought it.
Yeah, dude. I mean, of course, there are people who are going to want to buy this.
Weirdos are out there, man.
I know.
Don't blame India. We have a few, but so do the rest of the world. All right.
No, but when that happened, that time LeBron and those guys had done a protest of some nature, right? And so at that time, this right wing commentator said something along the lines that they should just shut up and dribble. And so then she started getting mocked. It became a little bit of a this, right?
It's also this social networking thing is also a tool for passing time. You just do it. Sometimes you start trying to be funny. I'm not taking a side. I'm trying to think of the different reasons you say different things. Sometimes since I didn't know it was like a pun on words or play on words on his biography or video or whatever it is.
Right.
It's a little sense that he was just trying to be cheeky. Honestly,
Yeah.
because that's his style. Zlatan. All right, Zlatan and cheek basically. Quick, one more. 10:49.
All right. Yeah. So we have two cricket questions.
Yeah.
This one comes from Purvanchal Law Classes. Okay, wow. Purvanchal Law Classes ask opinion on the Motera match, pink ball issue or pitch issue, Cyrus?
Okay, both. Do the research on pink ball, ladies and gentlemen. Pink ball matches have been disasters for batsmen almost in every country. Australia, England, India, we played Bangladesh here first. Wherever else it has been played, New Zealand. Wherever we've had pink ball matches, the bat has struggled. There's no question about that.
But why you can't see the ball? What's the issue?
No, it's difficult to explain now because it's just like the vaccine. It's just been on for 2-3 years. So we don't have enough perspective to explain. The seam is more enhanced. The ball seems to swing more. It seems to bounce a little bit more. It just gives more to the bowler and to the spinner. Of course, our Motera wicket was like it was turning from 5 days before the match started. So there's no question. So you can criticize 2 days. 2 days is too quick a test match. It's just ridiculous. And in Indian batsmen struggled. Joe Root got 5 for 8. But I like the fact that the ball dominates the bat. If you forget the fact that he lost 3 days of income and all the TV rights, etc., and all that go to waste, I think for me, watching bowlers dominate shows you how good the batsmen really are. So I'm very happy. And don't forget, in test match in Adelaide, ended in 3 days with us 36 all out in the 4th innings. So, I mean, they have to discuss the pink ball at a separate meeting, the ICC, and figure out what to do. I'm all for it. I don't mind the odd test match ending fast. Come on, it gives you 3 more days to play games with your OCD. Opening doors 5 times, pressing your finger onto your nose, turning your head left to right. I've seen all kinds of strange things. Yeah, sorry, next question.
But would you actually prefer a shorter test match, Cyrus?
No, back in the 80s, people were screaming about 80s and 90s that they're dull and dreary. 5 days, Gavaskar batting forever, blue, it's killing us. Nobody's going to watch it. So we're thinking of making it into a 4-day test match with 100 overs per day. What happened to all that? Now when it goes the other way, now you're not happy. So you want this perfect balance. Where the perfect balance ever going to happen in life? You're going to have the odd test match that ends in 2 days. Both teams batted badly. We were just lucky enough that our spinners were just a little better than theirs. That's it. I don't know. I think there's too much criticism going on. The losing side, some of the pundits like Michael Vaughan, even Monty Panesar, who I love so much, unfortunately, all saying 2 days is too quick. But what the hell does that mean? Yeah. The batsmen weren't competent enough for this pink ball. The moment there's some advantage, the bowlers have been exposed, as they have been for the last 3 years in day-night matches. That's it. Correct. And it's not like India also didn't struggle. India did struggle. It just ended in 2 days with a 10-wicket win. But the fact of the matter is both teams didn't bat properly. You, me and Amit at 1, 2 and 3, different story.
I know, right? Exactly. Yeah.
I agree with what Cyrus said.
Yeah, well, you had 5 minutes of NBA and I had to play with myself. So then I give you 5 minutes. Now, here's a guy who understands balance. That's what Silvery does correctly. He made sure both the uncles were okay.
Another interesting cricket question.
Yeah.
This one again comes in from Harvesh Kasad. He says, Cyrus, what's your take on workload management in cricket with players told to miss the game? It only happens for bowlers, and this was prevalent pre-COVID too.
No.
What do you think of this?
In England, it's now happening for everyone. They just sent Chris Wokes, the all-rounder, back. They sent the batsman, wicketkeeper, Johnny Bairstow back, and then brought him back with no form, etc., etc. So they're doing a different thing altogether. They're looking at 17 test matches over 12 months, and so they have to rotate. That's their business. I don't agree with it at all because cricketers lose momentum. Jasprit Bumrah, we've rested for the 4th test because he asked for rest. I don't think he should have been rested. I should think he should have played all 4 test matches and been rested for the one-day games if possible. But I don't understand this. You have a shelf life of 10 or 15 years as an international sportsman. Okay, so you look after yourself, but what is this nonsense? They've got to get themselves more fit to play non-stop, yeah? What the hell? Tennis players do it. It's not like they take time off. NBA players Hey, what do they do in American sport?
They take a lot of time off.
So, no, they cycle them. It's like
over the last 5 years, it's become a massive topic of debate in the NBA. How much should you rest players even when they're not hurt? Because the science is actually showing that giving players more rest is both improving performance and prolonging careers.
There's also science against that, saying that you continue, in bodybuilding, you say that work out only one body part and then take 2 days off, 3 days off, kill it completely, then sleep and let it grow. And that's how it grows. But there's also, how do you explain people like mechanics with huge forearms who work every day and they have bodybuilder-like forearms just from the work they do for that body part every day. So there's science in both ways.
No, there is, but so I think with athletics, what they're finding is that the recovery times lead to longer careers, right? The reason why, think about this now, Cyrus. Just think about how many players you can think of who are playing deeper into their careers now than they ever have, right? And some of this comes down to sports science, right?
Okay.
Especially, you look at the NBA right now. LeBron James is 36 years old, 37 years old. He is legitimately still the best player in the NBA.
He may be on HGH. He may be on DECA.
No, he spends. Do you know that he spends over $1 million on his own body kind of maintenance every year personally? He has a hyperbaric chamber that he sleeps in. He does all this kind of sports sciencey stuff.
No, I accept that. And it makes sense. It's like a doctor investing in his refresher courses or something. It makes sense. What we have to understand is the Ian Botham style of the whole thing is, back in the 80s, they would play, let's just take the England team because we're talking about English conditions and English culture. They would play 6 days a week of county cricket all the time, and then they would play warm-up games and before playing test matches. They played much more cricket in a sense. Okay, there was no question of backing off, and they were able to bowl. I'm talking about the fast bowlers were able to bowl every day. Something happened where we became softer and now we're preserving them, putting them in cotton wool. You may be right. You may be right. The intensity may be a little more with the T20 coming in and all that. I can't say for sure, but I personally don't understand why they have to keep resting them when the momentum is good for the player. If Jimmy Anderson just gave you a test match, you didn't play him the next game. If Bumrah is bowling at his very best, he should be playing in the next game. I don't understand. I don't get that.
This is a massive conversation in all kinds of sports. I know it's happening in soccer too. I know that it is happening in the NBA. It's not happening in the NFL, but it's happening in the NBA. It's happening in baseball. It's happening in the NHL. It's happening in soccer. It's happening in all of these sports which have...
Sorry, Amit, it also brings into question the context. So what are you playing then? If so many matches, you can allow the guy not to play. So are a lot of the matches inconsequential? How does that work? In which case, look at that.
So then that's why there's so much controversy around this, right? This young kid who has saved up his money to go and see LeBron James play, but LeBron James is not playing that day because he and his team has decided that it is in my best interest not to play today, right? So does that make sense? Or so
it does make sense. Jimmy Anderson is the best swing bowler of his generation, bar none. We want to see him. He's in the last legs of his career. He comes to India, you want to see him, and then he bowls a beautiful spell, breaks the back of the Indian batting, wins them a test match in a sense, and then doesn't play the next, and then they lose really badly because they've taken out two of their momentum players straight away.
It definitely, it's not an easy answer, right? There's definitely something, there's complexity to it. But the guy who won the Super Bowl is 44 years old today,
Brady.
Right? Yeah, right.
But he's an exception, isn't he?
No, you're seeing more and more of these exceptions.
Because Chris Gayle is playing. He's just been chosen by the West Indies for T20 series against Sri Lanka at 41. You're right.
You're familiar with these monitors and stuff like that they're using to track movements and stuff?
Yes, of course.
Right?
They're all doing it. Even the cricketers are doing it.
Yeah, so from hour to hour, minute to minute, exactly how much movement they're doing, what is happening on their this, and then they have all these blood tests that they're doing. They're doing all these oxygenation tests to find out how oxygenated the blood is and stuff like that. And they're just kind of doing this.
Isn't about time the sportsmen do IQ tests as well? I think that's one.
I think that, dude. Honestly, I've come to the conclusion that if you're playing professional sports, you can't be a dummy.
We just discussed it's all about too much of a good thing or too much spoiling the whole barrel completely, making the apples rotten or whatever metaphor you want to use. And I'm just thinking maybe it's just going the other way, just with political correctness, just with the whole Me Too movement, etc., etc. Everything's just going to an extreme where it loses its sense of logic. And then you put them in a cotton wool swab and you hold them and hug them and hide them and release them slowly. I don't know if I understand a little bit of rotation, I understand a little bit of rest, but it's just too much now. And England is setting a very bad precedent. India started to follow it. Australia is already following it. And once these 3-4 countries do it, everybody else is going to do it. There's no way Afghanistan won't do it at some point when the intensity goes up. Travel itinerary, that is.
It's a hard answer, right? Again, if let's say you're a professional cricketer and you find out that by doing this, by resting every 4th match or resting every 6th match that is being played, this has the potential to extend my career by 3 years. Would you do it or would you not do it?
How the hell can you prove it will go up by 3 years?
But you can never prove that. You cannot prove anything.
A lot of it is mental fatigue also. The reason is that we play 3 intense games and give the guy a break, mentally didn't recharge, etc.
I hope it's not mental fatigue, because these guys should be tougher than that by the time they get to.
How will they get tougher when you keep pulling them back and putting them in cotton wool?
No, but the
toughening thing is not happening.
They don't become international cricketers without going through like other things, no?
It's not just cricket. It's like you mentioned, it's all sports now, more or less. So it's the way of the world. I'm just saying, are you making a softer generation of players? That's all I'm saying. In the sense, they may play longer, but are they softer?
I don't know.
The hard yards of the 80s and the 90s are now far behind us.
I don't know, right? I mean, like,
did Mickey Mantle play all the games in every season?
Yes, he did.
Okay.
Like, so the Cal Ripken was one of the most amazing baseball players when I was a kid, right?
Right.
Or like 18, 19, 20 years old. He got the quote-unquote Iron Man record, which he beat Lou Gehrig for, which was the most consecutive games ever played. Right? He just kept playing every day, day in, day out. That record is never going to be
decent intensity, right? It's not like it's any...
He was a good player.
No, what I mean, the levels were pretty good still.
So he was, let's put it this way, right? I mean, like, would he have been considered to be one of the all-time bests as he is right now if he didn't have this component to it, where you can count on him to be there for every game no matter what? I don't think so. But he was a good player. He was definitely an all-star, but maybe not an all-time great. Right,
but it doesn't mean that if we rested him every third game, he would have become an all-time great and played 2 more years.
Maybe he does. You don't know that.
So I think his intensity would have gone through the roof if we gave him a third or fourth game off.
That's what they're saying right now, right? I mean, like, the reason why they say that is that basically the springiness in your muscles improves. Your
injury.
What's that, fast twitch or something like that they call it?
Fast twitch has to rest. Okay, that's all powerlifting philosophy. I understand that. They have to rest. Otherwise, you can't perform at the same level. But your body has to perform at a certain level, at a certain consistent level to be an athlete also. You got to find some middle ground there. I'll leave you with this thought. Can you replace anchors who are in the momentum? Would you take Arnab Goswami off when he's hitting such high notes? No, you wouldn't. Would you replace him with? Republic TV, look no further. I'm willing to change my political views for the right tie and glasses. Yeah. All right, guys, we've gone well over time.
Yeah, we've gone over an hour.
I've got a meeting for an event at 11, which is now 1 minute late. So I will see you tomorrow with a guest. This is Cyrus Press signing out. I'm walking home. $32 midnight rate for taxi. Unbelievable. Bye-bye, guys.
Bye.
Okay, catch us on any of the podcasting apps, please. We beg you, we need you. Send us your questions on Twitter on Cyrus Says In. Or you can email us, even if you're not female, on whatcyrussays@gmail.com.
Working Monday to Friday glued to your chair making you feel dull? Worry not. Get your 5-minute weekly dose of travel around the world with Postcards from Nowhere. Join me every Thursday as I explore the strange, obscure, and fascinating parts of the world and bring out facets of travel you may not have thought of before. You can find us on the IVM Podcast app, website, or wherever you get your podcast from.
जिंदगी डायरीज के पन्नों में कुछ पुरानी यादें, समुंदर किनारे झूमते दरख्त, जवान दिल की धड़कनें और अनजान मुलाकातें हैं। तो आइए खोलिए मेरे साथ जिंदगी डायरी के पन्ने और साथ ही खुलकर जीते हैं जिंदगी। आप सुन सकते हैं जिंदगी डायरीज IVM पॉडकास्ट ऐप या वेबसाइट पर, या जहां कहीं से भी आप अपने पॉडकास्ट सुनते हो।